Hi, welcome to Go Tell Mom. I'm Dianna Kelly, and I've been momming for several decades, including tending my fur babies, kids I gave birth to, kids I mentored as a broadcaster and college instructor, my kids' friends, and my friends. I'm not a psychologist or doctor, but I do know how to dig up advice from those who are, and that's what I'll share with you. If you have something to share with me, remark, comment, question, please comment below. When I was a kid, I had a list of chores to do. Some of them were completely to my benefit, like making my bed every morning and putting my clothes away. But I was also required to set and clear the table every night. My brother got trash and lawn duty. My sister had to load and unload the dishwasher. We all had to rake the yard every fall and shovel the walks every snowstorm. My mom didn't have us do bathroom cleaning or laundry or floor swabbing or vacuuming. She later told me my grandmother never made her and her sisters do chores because she wanted them to focus on school. Thus, Mom did not give us a boatload of stuff to do, just enough to learn to be responsible. I would volunteer to dust. I liked dusting. Mom used this lemon-scented furniture polish I love. To this day, a room does not smell clean to me unless it has a citrus scent. I loved clearing off the dust and making our tabletops and the entertainment center shine. We also had a Victrola that Mom and Dad bought with the house, and I loved polishing the wooden doors and the curved top. I also liked getting an allowance. Mom and Dad said if we share in the household responsibilities, we would share in the family income. I got $1 a week by the time I hit my teens, but I didn't get to collect it unless I had my account book. Dad set us up with little notebooks where we would have to mark the date and the amount, and he'd initial it each week, kind of like putting in a timesheet for a paycheck. Not all kids get allowances, but Investopedia says among parents who shell out a weekly allowance to their offspring, 59% say they require their kids to earn it. My ex and I tried to do the allowance thing for a while, but getting the kids to do chores didn't work in their younger years, so we stopped doing it. I was working so many hours that I didn't have time to nag them, and eventually the kids wound up getting jobs to earn income to buy stuff that they wanted that wasn't given to them. But I would have preferred to get them into the earning family money habit. So how much should you pay your kids for chores? Investopedia says most folks pay $1 or $2 a week for each year of the child's age. That's about $80 a month. Now, when my kids were in middle school, my ex tried to talk me into giving the kids $80 a week and make them pay for everything that they needed besides room and board, saying it would make them responsible. Since neither of them were into feeding or caring for their dogs, cleaning their rooms, or doing their laundry at that point, I did not think they exhibited enough responsibility for that kind of trust. And since I was at that time in charge of the checkbook, I did not think we had the financial resources to hand out that kind of cash. You could always go the route of paying a kid per chore. Rooster Money says the average amounts for top chores, rounded up, are $7.50 for mowing the lawn, $4.50 for raking leaves, $3.90 for washing the car, $3.10 for gardening, and $2 for washing windows. Oh yeah, Dad also had me wash windows. Kids get an average of $30 a week according to MarketWatch. They also say roughly half of parents are not giving their kids an allowance by age 8, and they think that's a mistake. Kids start to understand the concept of counting money at age 5, which is when they recommend you start the allowance system. This way, children better understand the value of saving and spending. MarketWatch definitely advocates the savings part. My parents had each of us set up a bank account when we were in high school to save our money. I was grateful to have one when I had my first paycheck at age 16. Financial experts say get your kids to save over time for the items they want. It's a good habit. In fact, they recommend kids save a third of their allowance each week. The whole idea behind the allowance in the first place is to get kids used to the idea of being responsible for their money. So what happens if your kid wants to save up for an item that may take years to earn with their current allowance? MoneyFit suggests creating an optional chore list. If they add chores to the list of things that they already do, for example, shovel the driveway and not just the walk, or give the dog a bath and trim, they get extra money. The optional chore also teaches them that earning money is tied to work, effort, and initiative. You don't want the allowance to be so small that it's meaningless, or so large that it's just fun money. My parents eventually made us pay for special clothes, records, toys, art supplies, and books that we wanted to buy. I had to buy my own yearbook. My brother actually bought a fish tank with his allowance and several types of exotic fish that eventually ate each other. Yes, this was a budget lesson for him. I saved up for a trip to Quebec with my French club, and it was one of the best experiences I had in high school. Budget lesson for me. And speaking of budget lessons, your kids are getting them from you. If you're telling them that they need to stick to their budget and earn the item they want, but you're spending beyond what you can afford, your kids will do what you do and not what you tell them to do. You might opt for the jar system with your kids, according to hermoney.com. There's the save jar, the spend jar, and the share jar. Save for the future, spend for your weekly wants, and share with someone who needs it. It's never too early to teach kids about giving to those less fortunate. But to make it effective, you need to give them more than 60 cents per week, which is what I got when I was 6 years old. The idea is to give kids enough spending money that they have some purchasing power and room for decisions, but they also develop a regular habit of saving and giving. Put it this way. Now when you're in the line at the grocery store checkout and the kids start pleading for candy or gum, you tell them it's their decision. Do they want to spend their allowance on that? Oh yeah, my mom used that line a lot when we were kids. Each family operates differently. Maybe you have someone doing your yard work and cleaning so the kids don't have chores to do, and you don't have time to fight with them over it, but you want to teach them to be responsible about money. So maybe you give them a weekly allowance and tell them part of it goes toward clothes and meals out with friends as they get older. I used to save my babysitting money for a stop at McDonald's after our CYO basketball games. And some weeks I'd get the fries. Other weeks I wouldn't. Couldn't afford it. All part of learning how to save and spend. Her Money says the benefit of starting an allowance when kids are little is you're teaching them base level stuff, kind of like the way you expose them to literacy by reading to them before they can read. It's important to make them understand how to use money and when not to use it. We've all heard from our kids at some point about how everybody has the latest gadget or toy, and they absolutely need it too. My ex and I used to tell them, wait till Christmas or wait till your birthday, and it would land in their present pile, and they'd happily use it for a month. If we made them buy it themselves, they'd have learned a lot sooner that not everything advertised is what it's cracked up to be. They'd have learned that, yes, they can live without the latest trend. It would make spending money a lot less anxiety-inducing for them as adults. My daughter was terrified about graduating because she knew she'd have to figure out on her own how to manage her spending. Eventually, she realized that she would be able to live on her salary and over time save up for the extras she wanted. I really wish we had set up a consistent allowance for her to learn that sooner. It would have saved her a lot of dread and anxiety that many of today's kids face, and it would have given her a lot more confidence as a consumer. Are you giving your kid that kind of confidence? And as MarketWatch says, it's never too late to start giving an allowance. You're listening to Go Tell Mom. This is Go Tell Mom with Dianna Kelly, and Lori Meyer is joining me now. She's an educator and a mom herself. So, Lori, did you have an allowance growing up?
No. I did not have an allowance growing up. I mean, every now and then my parents gave me money, but as a parent, I did that a little bit differently. The philosophy of allowance versus commission about what's expected of you versus what you should be doing or earning extra. Yes.
Yeah. See, I did have an allowance. It wasn't huge, but it was enough when I was a kid that if I wanted candy or gum or, I saved up for a Barbie doll one year.
Right. I love it. Yes.
That kind of thing. It was nice to have something like that, but we had to earn it.
Was it like a weekly, monthly? How did they?
Weekly, but my dad had us all have account books.
Nice.
So you would
Absolutely.
have to show Dad the account book. And sometimes I'd go weeks without hitting him up for it, and I'd feel guilty. So sometimes I would write things down.
There
like
you go.
They had, in
right.
an art, like Dad had already paid me because I didn't feel right about asking him for whatever the amount was. $5. That's going to be really tough for Dad to pay me $5.
Right.
It wouldn't have been. Sure. And I certainly earned it, but they had us earn it. I was in charge of a certain amount of chores. My brother was, my sister was, and some of them were like monthly chores, and some of them were daily chores, and some of them were weekly chores, but we all had them.
And that's a great responsibility, I think, to have. And you know, there's a little debate between an allowance. I mean, shouldn't these be the things that you should do automatically to help your household as a family that contributes? And there's a lot to be said for that. Like, we're a team. We're a family team.
Yeah, but my parents always put it, if you're sharing in those family chores and responsibilities, you should be sharing in the family wealth.
Absolutely. Right.
So that was why they would give us, and this is what you get per week. They didn't necessarily tie it to the chores, but it kind of was. I don't ever remember being docked an allowance because I didn't do chores. But it was understood that they kind of went hand in glove.
Right. And I've seen some teacher moms, you know how us teachers can be. They would even do with their kids, like to earn extra money. And they would put like a $5 bill and it might say like wash the cars. Or, you know, a $10 bill, this, you know, or whatever. Things if the kids wanted to earn more money. You know, and that was one way to do it. You know, and we took the philosophy, my husband and I, with our daughter Jessica at a very early age. And each kind of age and stage brought a different level of these type of responsibilities and the money that came along with it, you know. And we took the philosophy of like a commission. There were certain things that we expected in this household, and there were some extra things that if you wanted to earn a little extra, but no matter what, we gave her a certain amount of money depending on the age that she was at, and that was the money she would get on a monthly basis. And we, like you said, we never deducted, but I wanted to tie it in with the money responsibility. And when she was little, you know, like 6, 7, 8, we had little envelopes. 3 envelopes was save, spend and give. You know, go back to the Dave Ramsey for the early years. You know, we put a certain percentage, and great money math too if you want to put some life skills. And it was really important to her to, whether it was donating at church or there was always the rice bowls for Haiti or something going on that was kind of like in her dollar amount. And then something big that she was saving up for. And some dollars that she would spend on. And not that if she went out with friends, of course we gave her money, but it was things that she could do. And I think that was such a great foundational experience with money that has extended her, you know, if that was like 7, 8 years old and now she's 20, and I still see that foundation with her to this day. And it evolved and changed over time as well. But, you know, I see that as her being a young, responsible adult with money, because we constantly have it as a conversation and it's a constant thing in our household. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. It's an automatic thing. We talk about money and what to do with our money, and ultimately it's her decision, but a lot of those foundations are definitely there.
Well, see, we didn't do allowance with our kids, which I really wish we had. I mean, when you're working full time and hard. Then some,
it's hard,
and you're trying to get them to follow rules. My kids didn't do chores. It really wasn't until they hit their teen years that they started pitching in. And my son would mow the lawn without me asking. And my daughter would scrub the kitchen without me asking. But it really wasn't until they hit their teens. When they were young, not so much.
Well, but they would clean up after their toys, or would they do, you know?
Sometimes not as much. But then I'd leave them with a mess. And if they were having friends over,
that was their mess.
And so it got to the point where they would take care of that themselves, you know, that kind of thing.
Which is kind of an interesting philosophy there, too.
But when it came to things like laundry and all that, it really wasn't until their teen years that we had somebody that looked after them up till then. And they would do laundry for the kids, you know. But when we didn't have somebody watching them anymore, the kids would do their own laundry, you know, because mom would throw in stuff. I don't like the way you wash that. I'm like, fine, you do it.
You know, we had that too happen. It hit my daughter's freshman year of high school, and we would do a little bit of laundry together, or I would wash it and she would fold it, like middle school years. And she, you know, her being a dancer all those years, all those tights and leotards and I mean everything required, and then in one day she'd be in like 3 or 4 different outfits, you know, because you had school pajamas, after school clothes, your dance clothes to exercise in, and it was crazy. So got her on board and we did it together. But by high school years, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are your days. You know, Thursday, Friday is hubby, those are your days.
Yeah.
And this, or I think I gave him the weekend because he travels a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and we just had to divide the household up into
smart.
chores.
That's really smart.
And it became a level of respect. Everybody got to do it their way. How could one person do all of those chores?
But see, my mom did when we were growing up, except for then when we got into the allowance habit, then it would be, well, Diana makes the salads and sets the table and clears the table.
Right.
You know, that would be my responsibility. And whenever Dad decided that he wanted the car windows cleaned, that would be my responsibility too.
But see, I like breaking things up into responsibilities, and there's no perfect way to do it, but I think it comes back to building a team, you know, and just because you're done with your thing doesn't mean you don't go help the other person.
Right.
But it's also project management. And if it does tie into money, and it doesn't always have to tie into money back to our allowance, but I think it helps give our children this perspective of, like I said, project management, being a team, helping one another. And if it does tie into money, there's some value in that too.
Yeah.
And I think that helps them grow up to be responsible adults.
And feeling like what they have, they earned.
And there's a pride factor in that too.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
there's a huge, huge value. And then they're not just arbitrarily or impulsively just spending their money.
Right.
You know, and I know for the longest time, anything that my daughter would earn, she was more of a saver and she didn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
You know, because it needed to be
too.
Something really important for her to buy.
Yep.
She loved doing the giving. That was, but because she automatically knew she had money aside for that, you didn't feel, you know, you truly felt like it was something so good for you to do, and you weren't giving up the money that you were to spend on.
Right.
You know, because in a way, I thought I was like frugal. I mean, she's really frugal, you know. She's like, if I order this lunch, I could get 2 meals out of it, you know, because I take the other half home.
Yeah.
But there's a good connection there, and whether it's allowance or commission or tying chores to it, or maybe there's not tying any chores to it, but this is what we expect in the household, but I'm going to still give you some walking around money because, I mean, you're 12, you're 16.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you have cash on hand. I don't want you to ever be in a situation where you don't have money either.
Well, that's the other thing, too, that parents always worry about. You know, if there's an emergency, are you going to be able to
Uber home?
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yeah. I always made sure if my kids were going to a dance or to some social event that they always had the money for that.
Yes. And we probably gave them more
than they
were really needing, or maybe what that allowance or commission would justify.
Yeah.
But I think the value in that lesson is still there. And if you consistently do it.
Well, my kids would actually both started working in their mid-teens. Actually, Austin before that, because Austin did some commercial acting.
I love it, yes.
Yeah. It was so sweet. It's a moss green cashmere sweater. That I absolutely loved, and I wore all the time. With his first check, after he started making money, he bought his mom a sweater when they were on sale at Macy's.
Oh my goodness!
Which is funny because he made the money through the Thanksgiving flyer for Macy's.
Oh, you're kidding!
No.
So he was on the print ad for it.
Yeah, he was on the print ad
circle
for it.
Around
yeah, so
circle the wagon or something.
They got money back from him.
I love that.
Yeah.
What a sweet! But it was wonderful that that's what he thought of.
Yes, exactly.
And that's beautiful.
But my kids would earn their own money that way. And but my parents were kind of the reverse about that. We had our allowances, but I babysat for everybody. I babysat for the assistant principal. I babysat for the athletic director. I babysat for all of these people at school. I would save my money for things like field trips and that kind of, because my mom would say, look, I'll put clothes on your back.
Right.
I'll feed you. But when it comes to the extras, that's your department. You know, and she was like that with all of us.
Right.
I bought my class ring. I bought, all of those things myself. And I valued them more, I think,
You do
that
value
way.
them more, and it's so much different. I mean, the same thing goes for me as well. By the time I was in high school, and I was a young high school, 13, 14, in a summer birthday. So what we were lying at that time to get a job that you should have been 15 or 16 for, and we're probably like 14.
Yep.
But, you know, like you said, your parents, they put a roof over your head, there's food, and they would always buy like back to school clothing or those kind of things.
Yeah.
But anything else that you wanted, whether it was that special shampoo or that really trendy Guess jeans at the time was popular for me,
you had to
which
come
is
up with
why
the
I
stuff.
worked at the Guess jeans store
There you go.
for get 50% off. So I thought I was being really smart, and then my whole check went to that place. But but anything like that, we would have to buy for ourselves. And if we wanted to go to a concert, that would be something we'd buy.
Same thing.
Or our gas money or car insurance. You know, my parents bought the vehicle. for me, and it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. It was a used vehicle, and it was the right type of used vehicle for a young...
We did that for our kids, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was like the $999 special.
Yes.
And we probably had it in the shop as much as it was on the road.
Yes, I had to fix it again, Tony. I had a Fiat, so it was constantly getting repaired.
Yeah.
But gas and insurance, that's on us, you know, and you learn that responsibility, and they helped in a lot of ways, and which was wonderful to get that car bought for you, free and clear, debt free.
Yeah.
But you almost needed that job to pay for the car or for the gas and the insurance. It's expensive as a teenager. So you were working for that. I don't remember having much money afterwards left over while you're going to school.
Yeah.
And then college too. College we paid for. There was no special college fund in my situation.
Yeah.
And we had to figure that one out too.
Yeah.
But I valued my education and kept going and going and going, to where I was starting to work on my doctorate. But it took me many years on and off for a long time. And that goes back to working and earning and understanding the value of whether it's an allowance or appreciating what you have with the money that you buy. And that does start at an early age.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to just give our kids anything and everything that they want.
Yeah.
And in some ways we probably do, and in some ways we don't, but hopefully we're giving it to them in the right way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my kids worked in college, and my parents expected us to. They did give us some for college, but for the most part, the lion's share of it, you were supposed to figure out how to pay for it, or let the school figure out how you're going to pay for it.
Or let the school help you decide how to figure it out.
Right.
Which, college is very valuable.
Yeah.
Education is very valuable, or whatever educational path or vocational school or apprenticeship that you decide to go down is very valuable. But look at how all these things stem back to earning an allowance. Should kids have an allowance? Should kids be able to figure out how to make money or at least value things? And that's kind of the fun part and the privilege that we get to do as parents.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just one more point I wanted to ask you about, because there's always a question with those that feel that kids should just get allowances and not have to earn them or do chores. And it's a valid point that, yes, everybody should be doing chores anyway.
Right.
But the club that says, but if you make kids earn their allowance, then they're going to feel like they don't have to do chores beyond what the
It's like, okay, I was supposed to just do the dishwasher for my allowance chores. Right. Well, I'm not going to vacuum.
Yeah.
Because that's none of my chores.
Yeah.
Right. And
if my mom asked me to do anything, I was doing
absolutely.
it. I mean, that's just...
Well, and that's also parenting respect and love.
Yeah.
There's got to be a missing element.
Yeah, because my mom was also the one that would bake cookies for bake sales for my whatever club and that kind of thing. And she would show me. She's like, okay, finally, by the time I got at the age where she actually trusted me around the stove, she would show me how to do it.
I'm sure her cookies were good. If she makes her own your clothes for you, I'm sure her baking and cooking skills are pretty good too.
She never bragged about her cooking skills.
Okay.
Mom was real basic about stuff.
Okay.
But
I gotcha.
We loved her whoopie pies. If Mom was making whoopie pies, I mean, it was just, oh man.
I love it.
I'd bring a bunch of kids home for like a yearbook staff meeting at the kitchen table.
She
Mom was
that.
making whoopie pies.
That's so sweet.
And so she would show me how to do that. But there are groups that feel that kids should just automatically get money, and there are those that say, well, what they need to do is automatically budget their money so that they're paying for their own clothes, that you give them X amount of dollars and they have to take money out of that to buy their own clothes. And I can kind of see that, because when I do back to school shopping with the kids, I got to the point where I was just hand them.
Well, and there's pros and cons to both of those sides.
I'm not sure I'm in with the group that says that you should make your kids pay for everything, that you allot them an X amount of dollars and make them pay for everything.
And it depends on the age, but you're right. Just having them, there's no way, even a teenager, how could they afford everything that they would need? I mean, there's some elaborate, expensive things that I can, like, okay, that's a little too much, at Ulta, and this is like $70 for that one little makeup thing. I'm like, okay, whoa, easy does it, they're hot.
But that sounds like a familiar conversation.
Yes. So that might be crossing maybe the line, even if I can or cannot afford it. But if we have young teenage daughters and they like to have some makeup, of course I want to help with that. But if they are earning money, whether it's a job or babysitting or chores,
then enjoy it. But there are parents that think that they should just hand the kids X amount of dollars and you budget it for your back to school clothes and for your books or any fees and your gas money and all this other stuff. And I guess I'd like to have a closer tab on where the household money was going than just give it to the kids and say, here you go.
And just hearing the hand it over and here you go and budget. And unless you've had that rapport and relationship with the child that you've developed budgeting skills with, money conversations with, and what to do, just handing it over to, I don't know, I just have this image of how my cousins were, and they were very impulsive, and any money they had, they were ready to go to the arcade and spend it. And of course, in my day, it was arcades. Or just spend it. You know, what have you established with your child as a family? And
rules, etc.
Yeah, what are the rules? And hopefully they've grown and developed. And I think that's our job, and that's our privilege as being a parent on one of those things, one of the many things that we get to help them nurture and grow and have that skill. Because one of the most important skills, not the most important skill, but one of the most important skills is having good personal finance, money management skills that I want to be able to give to my child as they grow into young adulthood and then adulthood, and hopefully pass that on too.
Well, they say allowances are a good way of doing that. And I'm thinking that it kind of depends on the individual families as to what works with them.
And, you know, it could be the same family, but 3 different kids that need to be
guided
taught those skills
differently.
Completely different. My dad's an identical twin.
Oh, wow.
Mirror twin.
Oh,
one's
wow.
lefty, one's righty. One has the colic in his hair where his part is on the one side, and then the other one has the other. So they look like mirror twins.
Wow.
One had 3 boys, one had 2 girls. Completely different personalities. Completely. And if you were to pretend like they were young boys and you're teaching them these concepts, they need to be taught it differently.
Yeah.
Even if the concepts were the same and the amount was the same and the chores were the same, they need to be taught it in a different way, in a different approach.
Well, Lori, thanks for joining me. I know you've got people to see, but I appreciate you taking time and joining us.
It is always a pleasure. I could do these all the time with you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Go Tell Mom, where we chew on stuff that you talk about with your mom, or maybe not. I'm Dianna Kelly. If there's something you want brought up, something you want to add, comment below, and I'll be back next week.